Alright, draft science video. Yeah, sorry, been busy lately, so I haven't had time to do anything. Selling the property I live on, lots of stuff. It's going to be a busy summer. Anyway, Day made a comment that I'll respond to, and well, I'll just start there. It's about this light thing, and so I just wanted to kind of go into what there's particle theory provides the same mechanism as wave theory, in the sense that you can just understand it's like saying a wave of bullets. You can understand that particles can behave like a wave. It's not a mystery that they would have a phase, that there would be periods where there could be lots of bullets, and then periods where there's no bullets, and then periods where there's lots of bullets, and then no bullets. And some people might think of that as there just being, noisy periods and quiet periods and noisy periods, and then some people do this wave thing, but there's no obligation to think of it in terms of anything like a wave, which is usually movement within a medium, a transmission of an impulse through a vibration of a medium. But obviously bullets aren't doing that. Alright, so Holiday says, lasers produce coherent light. That is, all photons are in phase. Okay, so my dispute to that is the fact that when I watched the LIGOS documentary, they talked a bit about the laser. It's a very powerful laser, gigahertzy, tons of photons and whatever. And they're really focused on getting it in phase. That it takes a lot of technology and work for them to clean the out-of-phase bits. So it's more in phase than a flashlight, but it's not perfectly in phase. Lasers don't make perfect light. They just clean light in the sense that only the coherency is what's being amplified. Well, I'll draw a picture and explain. That is why they are powerful. Well, it's really, you could argue that why they're powerful is the fact that, it's not so much them being in phase, is that they're all pointed in a similar direction. That you can at least point them in a similar direction. That you can focus them over a long distance. They have good focal length, something like that. The principle of light amplification by stimulated emission, puts these in capital letters for whatever reason, of radiation ensures this. I don't know what this doesn't sound like a principle to me. The principle of light amplification by stimulated emission. It's not really a principle. It's a function. You excite an electron, and then you try to unexcite it, okay, at a very specific time, so it emits another photon. It's timing. So I'll go into that. So I dispute your statement to the contrary. Well, I didn't make a statement in a sense to the contrary. I made a statement that not that lasers weren't more in phase, that I just made this, I didn't make the statement that lasers are completely out of phase. I didn't make a statement. Your comment is a straw man. So anyway, Superior Mind attempted a reply and just got wrong as a reply from Day. So he obviously doesn't want to defend his emphatic statements. So, what are you going to do? The other commenters, stupid marbles guy, is so annoying. So he's only listed about 6 or 7 other experiments for me to have to go dissect. And the William guy is really outrageous. The single slit pattern is determined by the ratio of the wavelength over the slit width. In the double slit, there is no there's no slit width in the math, retard. You know, this is just so obnoxious. I mean, it just doesn't pay any attention at all. This is about the double slit experiment and the fact that the difference between the math and the single slit and the double slit is the one of the variables, usually labeled A, the aperture width, is changed from the width of the slit. That's what the variable A means in single slit. And A means in double slit, how thick is the barrier in between. Idiot. You're a physics genius. You should know this. Know what? I played the Yale professor explaining what I'm stating here. This isn't my statement. This is how they do their math. What do I have to play it again? I don't understand. What didn't you hear? He said clearly when somebody asked the question. No, we changed the variable in the double slit experiment, and we just consider the slits single point sources. Do I have to play him saying it again? I mean, I'm just going to ask you. I mean, how many times do I have to accept your retarded retorts? I mean, it's in my video, you fuckhead. I'm sorry. I didn't really want to do that. I didn't want to do this. I mean, these people just are not worth my time. You should be able to figure it out. If you want to consider what happens with a wider slit, okay, yeah, that would be really cool. In the double slit, wider slits, mathematically that's the same as making the wave shorter. You can't change the frequency of the light in the math. You can't just say, oh yeah, it's 700 nanometer light. No, let's just say, because we want to change the width of the slits, we'll just pretend the light's a different frequency. What the fuck? It doesn't make any sense. If that's how you're doing your math, then yeah, I'm saying your physics is really double retarded. It's not just retarded, it's double retarded. Okay, that's what I meant by basic algebra you can't understand, liar. Bold-faced liar. I don't understand. How can you possibly call me a liar when this was so simple? Piro's claim was, and I said, okay, Piro, go ahead, show me the two-slit math done the right way. Show it to me. No link. Still no link from you people showing me it done correctly. And so again, show me the double slit math where the width of the slit is in the math. Go ahead, show me. So this Robin guy, who's just about ready to get blocked because he just keeps defending liars. That sounds about right. What sounds about right? What? Why don't you show me what sounds about right? Can't you post a fucking link to the most famous physics experiment ever conducted? Can you show me the fucking link? Show me where the Yale professor is wrong. That they don't do the math that way. Show me. You're going to claim he's wrong? Show me he's fucking wrong. You cunt. God, this is really, I'm just getting so pissed. Yeah, I didn't want to do this. Shouldn't have ever read these comments. So they would adjust the width of the wavelength to determine diffraction. We're talking about doing the experiment and having math that predicts the results. Now, how are you predicting the results if you say, let's just pretend it's a different kind of light? What is that? So I would guess they would optimize slit width before fucking with the width between them. I don't understand. So I would guess they would optimize slit width before fucking with the width between. What does that even mean? So I would guess they would optimize slit width before fucking with the width between. Well, I would imagine that you have no connection to this as any kind of fact conversation whatsoever. Because again, I showed the Yale professor pointing right to the barrier between the slits and saying, this is now the A variable in the math. In the single slit, the A variable is the width of the slit. In the double slit, the A variable is the thickness of the barrier. I showed him saying it. It is hard to believe they wouldn't experiment with all simple factors like this systematically. The point is they can experiment all they want. The point is their math doesn't predict. It doesn't do this. It's not interested in that prediction. What will happen if we make the slits wider? Well, that's not something our math predicts. It doesn't do that. And that's the simple truth. Oh, jeez. Systematically, I don't really need to know the algebra to get that much. Okay, there's more to his moronic comment. These fucking assholes. Still, when it comes to what the experiment actually proves, question mark, question mark, question mark. There are a few different theories. Well, and they're all ludicrous. I mean, there are a few different interpretations. Like there's 5 million dimensions. Or that photons bounce off to Pluto and come back here to go through a slit. Considering the people dedicating their lives to this shit, I can't agree. Considering that people dedicate their lives on this shit, I can't agree. I don't even know what that means. And I am someone who has not spent a lot of time on this subject. Fuck if I know. Well, you said something sounds about right that is entirely wrong, and that is grotesque. He's calling me a liar because I post a Yale professor saying it. Because I post a video of a woman doing the math. Because I post the evidence, he calls me a fucking liar. And you say, that sounds about right. Fuck you, Robin. So anyway, we're just about, like I said, I've said it before, but yeah, William, you're done, okay? I mean, this wasn't a difficult challenge for you. I mean, I've only said lots of times. Show me the fucking link, because I can't find it. I can't find it at Khan Academy. I can't find it at MIT. I can't find it at Stanford. I can't find it at Yale. I can't find it on Veritasium. I can't find it anywhere. So why don't you show me where it is, where they do it right? Piece of shit. Alright, anyway. You're still a liar, though, because you refuse to learn the math you talk about. Where's the evidence that I can't learn the math, in the sense that I'm the one analyzing the math and saying, look, see, that right there, they changed the variable. Now, I must have known something about the math if I could understand what the Yale professor was saying about the math, and that they changed the variable, what it represents. So where am I not understanding the math, asshole? Alright. FYI, I checked out the video where you're talking about. The math you're talking about doesn't take diffraction into account. So now I have to play Professor Lewin for the 4th time? For the 4th fucking time I have to play the Professor Lewin, MIT professor, most famous MIT professor, stating that the single slit diffraction has nothing to do with anything called diffraction. It's an interference pattern. So again, you're telling me what conventional physics is. You're saying you're defending conventional physics. I go to conventional physics, the authorities in conventional physics, and get their argument, and I play it. And then you're challenging their argument. You're not challenging my interpretation, my physics. You're challenging your own interpretation of conventional physics. So you're the outsider. You're the guy saying my physics is right, MIT is wrong. You're the nutter, asshole. This isn't what Professor Lewin would agree with, idiot. But that's because the class is like Intro to Physics for business majors. That's not what the class is, and obviously nobody could take the class if they didn't already know how to do calculus and and know how to do, derive equations and, integrals. So that's just a pile of horse shit. The class doesn't even have any demonstrations in it. It's strictly, the Yale lectures are just math on top of math on top of math on top of math. Fuckhead. But you wouldn't know, right? Because you certainly haven't paid any attention. You haven't watched the courses. Alright. Basically, George Bush took that class, dude. So that's how seriously he takes this subject. And he thinks that, so that this is just going to be what the standard excuse is. Every video on the internet is just garbage physics. And the only really good physics is in some secret place somewhere. So there's no real physics on the internet. You can't post me a link to the better lecture because it doesn't exist. Because it's hidden in the special physics room. Okay. You need to look at the real math. Well, why don't you show me the real math? Why don't you show me a link to the real math, asshole? Because I've already gone to every link there is for it, and it's always done exactly the same way. Okay. Where diffraction is actually accounted for. So there's no link provided. Nothing. So, nothing. And so we do have a question on wave interference. So we have another fucking link from mindless cunt face. Just to spell it out, the pattern on the screen is most closely approximated. So, again, what is it? We don't even need this. He does this stupid, look, he does this stupid fucking equation shit. Theta equals L sine alpha cosine delta, where, we don't need any of that. I played the Yale professor saying the width of the slits isn't in the equation. I played him saying it. A equals slit width. No, it doesn't. So right here is a lie. So fuck you. Fuck you, mindless. A equals slit width. No, I played the Yale professor explicitly saying, no, it doesn't. In double slit, in doing the double slit math, A does not equal the fucking slit width. Because it's not in the fucking equation. A equals the fucking width of the impediment, fuckhead. And you put this in bold, you fucking cunt? That is not true for the double fucking slit math. You people are fucking amazing. First I come on here and I say, you people, apparently all you knew was there was double slit, double slit, double slit, double slit. And so I point out, there's actually a single slit experiment, that has a pattern, right? And now you don't even know the double slit math. You are totally obsessed with double slit. You're the kings of double slit. You totally know everything about double slit, except it doesn't do what Feynman says. And then you can't even get it fucking right? You're going to post it in fucking bold? And it's wrong? Grotesquely wrong? This is wrong. This is not double fucking slit math. You are wrong. Yeah, so this video is totally gone south. I should not have read the fucking comments. You people are such fucking useless pieces of shit. This tripe. Alright. So, another stupid comment by William. Gary, sometimes you should go on Rverservex, or whatever, unpronounceable word, and take a look at how many people solve physics already. I don't have to go somewhere. I can go on the internet and I can show you Theora Apocalypse guy who's just so preposterously full of shit, and all the other fucking, I can just find anybody talking about Tesla. Okay, Tesla, a minor fucking engineer, and the magic Tesla resonance, magic Tesla ether theories. They're all over the fucking place. I don't need to go somewhere to find fucking idiots. fuck you, idiot. You're the one who can't seem to figure out what conventional physics is arguing. You're also in the nutter category with your own little special theory that you can't show to anybody because nobody else on the internet knows your special theory. That's the correct theory. That's why you can't post a link to anything, you lying piece of shit. Look how many people proved P equals NP. Who cares? There's a guy who thinks pi equals 4. You know, the whatever guy. Based on a stupid, a misunderstanding of how how forces are different. Like gravity is an actual force pushing things, and when you make something go through a tube or something, there's no force except the momentum of the object spinning, and that yes, they'll move a lot slower when they have to use their own energy to turn. Yeah, you move a lot slower when you're not getting pushed by gravity. Fuck. It might give you a little much needed fuck you perspective. No, you know, we're just done, really. So yeah, just don't post anymore, okay? Because I'm just going to delete your or I'm going to block you. Because fuck you, you're not bringing anything to this conversation but rudeness and obnoxious statements that you have some kind of fucking authority, and you're fucking wrong. You just don't have a right to keep doing this. So anyway, and then other people would argue with him, and what's the point? You know, the mindless marble. Honestly, I'd be much more interested if we talked about whether or not 1 + 2 + 3 equals 1/2, 1/12 or something, or whether 0.99 equals 1. Fuck you. Whatever that, I don't even know what that means, but yeah, go ahead and do that. Why? Who's stopping you? Get the fuck out of here. You fucking goddamn, you're just a troll, for fuck's sake. Okay. So yeah, he did post all of this crap. So I'm supposed to respond to all of this crap. So it's all a bunch of smoke and mirrors. I mean, literally. 2-slit experiment done with a mirror laid flat, or a mirror, bent this way. And he wants me to disprove all of those. Debunk every experiment ever done. So that's all this is. Debunk every experiment ever done. So he won't account for the fact of all the misrepresentations that are in every fucking physics video on the internet. All the total misinformation that's thrown out there. He'll take no accountability for that. And I have to debunk every single one of them. And even though when I debunk them, like I have debunked the crap that's in these videos, I don't get any reward for it. I get this obnoxious preaching that it's in the math, it's in the math. When I've got Yale professors pointing out how, no, it's not in the math. I mean, you people are disgusting. Okay, anyway, so I don't know what this guy is, but yeah, it's time for him to go. Touch wood, go call everyone, come on, showing, time for you to go. We're done with you. Hide, yes, we'll just hide you. Stupid piece of shit. I'll delete because they're not going, you're not hiding enough of them, so let's just delete the fucking pieces of shit. Fucking retard, Desmond Money. Fucking idiot. Time waster, life waster. Alright, so I don't think there's anything else I have to talk about here. The thing is, the one over here and over there, I think is more variable. So he's quoting me, I think it's more variable. You just don't know what you're talking about. I don't really need this shit, fella. I mean, make an argument or fuck off. It's not an argument. Your declarations of your insipid opinions is not an argument. Okay. So, now, for a little bit on light and lasers, which is creates an interesting preface. Alright, so there's stupid wave crap, right? So they say light's a wave and it's waving and it has two components to its wave, and it's doing this on top of that, you know, whatever, it's this thing, you know, it's two waves on top of each other. Anyway, with an amplitude and blah, 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 blah. So you can just do the same thing by just saying, yes, okay, if you break a photon into two components that have a distance between them, this would be the peak of the wave, okay, and this would be the trough of the wave. So this would be the wave. The wave would be this. Well, I didn't draw that very well. Yeah. Well, anyway, you get the message. This is the same thing as the wave. And so the interesting thing that happens in lasers is that you have electrons in different states. So we'll just draw them bigger as they're in different states. So you can have them in this kind of weak state, you can have them in this fat state, or you can have them in this fatter state. And so what a laser does is it shoots photons into something, you know, and they're just got the little, this is the photon, is 2. And so let's just understand that 2 tons, that's a photon, so that's the one thing. So we'll tie it together like a dumbbell. And what makes these things fatter are essentially their compression inside of the atom. So what's really happening is that they're getting pushed closer to, say, the neutron. And the force between the electron and the neutron gets stronger, okay, thicker, more reflections. The closer the electron gets to the proton. The same thing happens if electrons get close to protons. Electrons. So if another electron gets close to an electron, they create a compression. So I think this is the more viable thing, but you do have to account for it in the atoms themselves. So the more compression, the higher this frequency goes. And what else? Yeah, I don't remember the other point. But anyway, now I'm tired. Alright, so in a way, you could think of this as just being, as the electron gets energized, that what it's really doing is just collecting an extra photon. That it just has this extra photon in it. And that's really what the energizing means, is that it's got more ton. So say if I wanted to put more force in between something. Say there's a ping pong ball bouncing back and forth here. I can do two things to create more force. Okay, this would bounce back and forth, and each time it hits this thing we count that as force. So it has force 1. But if I just put another thing in here, and so now it has 2 ping pong balls bouncing back and forth, this would be force 2. You get it? So there's 2 ways I can increase the force. I can add another ping pong ball, or I can put the electrons closer together, and now this has F2 with only 1 because it bounces back and forth twice. You see? So I can create an F2 2 ways. I can add a ping pong ball, or I can push them closer together. So what I'm basically saying is that you can use this particle theory works fine in explaining this mechanism, in the sense that when these electrons are pumped or energized, they're just basically given a little more force. They're given another ping pong ball. And so now they have more energy, more stuff. Now it doesn't necessarily mean they're closer and the frequency is higher, it just means there's more available photons. It can mean an increase in frequency, and depending on what kind of experiment you're doing and how you're interacting with the electrons. Alright, so what happens in a laser basically is a photon is sent in, and it's going to interact with one of these electrons, and when it hits it, it's going to give up its barbell. It's going to give up its photon. So one will go in, give it a little more extra energy, but they'll lose all the energy back, so 2 will come out. So it's going to go back, it's going to get pushed towards it could either get pushed, so you think of this as the 2 state, the 1 state, and the 3 state. You can push a 2 to a 3, and they can go all the way back to a 1. Or you can push a 1 to a 2, or you can push a 2 to a 3 and just get 1 back. But the idea would be is that if you hit something in the 3 state, it can go all the way back to the 1 state, which means it can give you 2 extra photons, theoretically. Or if you push it to the 2 state, it can give you 1 extra photon. But the point is if you were pushing this way, you're pushing a 2 to a 3, and it doesn't get to the 3, then what you can get back, and it goes all the way back to a 1. So it tries to get to a 3, it doesn't get there, and it goes back to a 1. What means coming out will be this plus the extra force that you're taking back. So it'll be 2 barbells. So that's why they're coherent, because you're going to get them from one source. So 1 goes in, and it's going to give back 2 that are going to be in phase because it's a ray. This is going to be like a ray of light. And the ray can be many photons long. So as this keeps happening inside of the tube, this is mostly for gases. Each time it hits an electron and tries to give it extra energy, and it doesn't stay in that location, then on the when it goes back, it's going to add to the photon's energy level. And so that's sort of what's happening. So one source of energy pumps these electrons up, and then the photon hits them and releases they would decay on their own. So there's no, you could pump these up and then they'll randomly decay. This just takes some of the randomness out of it. And what you get back are these rays. Now the catch is these rays can be initiated at different locations, but the longer they get, the more likely you have a ray in phase. So the more in phase the light going in is, the more in phase it's going to be going out. Now the problem with like a neon laser is that you're initiating the excitement of these electrons at different moments because they're using a high voltage that's got a frequency to it. So at the peak frequencies there's lots of energizing. So the decay rate's going to be consistent from each one of those peaks of a lot of energizing of electrons. And so you'll have so gradually you'll have a lot of them will be in phase at the beginning, but as time goes on they start to drag off of phase because their decay rates become less and less exact. So the frequency starts to drift. Not the phase starts to drift. So you have they're not exactly, the bullets aren't exactly in the same line, all going the same way at exactly the same time. So this would represent in phase, is every stream of photons. So let's just say these are all rays of photons. All the rays have the same, where the tons all line up. That would be light in phase, perfect phase. But it's hard to make light in that kind of perfect phase. But lasers help because they combine independent photons into rays of photons, and the rays are more likely to be in phase through this kind of principle. Now, how is this? I want to make this more applicable to other things. So, but, I was distracted by the comments. But I'm just saying that the point I want to stress is that there's nothing. Particles aren't fundamentally different than the idea of a wave in terms of the mechanism and the fact that particles can perfectly duplicate wave behavior, where I guess I would argue waves can't perfectly duplicate particle behavior. Might be one of the arguments to make, is that there's lots of theory where you can explain how particles don't need a medium to be transmitted to a destination, and that they can as they're going to the medium, they can be in phase and can be lined up, so to speak, and hit the thing with a frequency. And there's no real theory that makes waves capable of doing the independent thing of the particle, and the non-spreading thing, of course. Alright, so I don't know if there's much I want to... I mean, I could deal with some of Mindless Marvel's comments now, but I probably should just do a separate video because I have to look up all his links. But again, they're all just versions of the two-slit experiment. I think the last comment, though, was relevant to this, so I think I'll get to that. I think it was. I think there was something about it that provoked interest. Let's see. They used 2 light pulses on neon. A short ultraviolet pulse was meant to knock the electrons free from the gas, and the second longer infrared light to oscillate the electrons. Yeah, well, that's the important thing. Is see, that's why I started talking about pulse laser. Is they have 2 elements. You have the pump, and then you have the initiating photons. So you have your stream of light that's going to be amplified, so to speak, and you have the amplifier, the thing pumping the amplification up. And the pump can be at a frequency, and the light coming in can be at a frequency, besides the fact that it has a nanometer frequency built into it. I mean another frequency. So the point is the light can be pulsed in the sense that these rays, okay, come like at a wider, longer frequency than, well, it's probably a good way to draw that. Okay, this would be the way the photons are initiated. So they would be always, the little rays would come at specific time intervals. So that way you're also assuring some kind of phase. You're getting rid of the degradation where they get off of phase by reinitiating a starting point. And so by doing that, you end up with stuff more in phase. But the problem is if you have light of more than one frequency, then these phases will end up over time becoming off phase because of the amount of time. Well, I guess it depends on how long the rays are. So see, that has to do with how long the tube is in tube lasers. So that's probably just going to get too complicated. But there's lots of variables here. There's lots of elements that are injecting frequency. There's the frequency of the photon, and then there's the frequency of the mechanisms amplifying it, the 2 mechanisms. Alright, so with Maxwell's equations, it's already known that radiation has a perpendicular electric component. I've already been over the perpendicular thing. The perpendicular thing is the whole reason why protons and electrons create the strongest force in the universe. I've been over that. Not only that, well, that's an argument that I don't know about, but the recorded electron kinetic energy matches exactly what is expected from wave equations. Wave equations don't have anything in them that's magical. They have an amount of light that goes in, an amount of light capable of going in. You don't need a wave equation to understand conservation rules. Waves don't create conservation. Particle theory can do that just fine. So there's nothing about the wave equation. And you say it predicts what perfectly? Perpendicular releases of energy? I don't think it does. Not only that. See, I mean, with Maxwell's equations, it's already known that radiation has a perpendicular electric component. Well, where does it come from in your theory? Not only that, but the recorded electron kinetic energy matches exactly what is expected from wave equations. The electron energy matches what would be expected from wave equations. What wave equation are you applying to electrons? I mean, I think Einstein made it kind of clear that electrons are moved by an amount of energy. You don't need a wave equation. I mean, you got a Nobel Prize for that whole, hey, whatever wavy thing it's doing before it gets somewhere, when it gets somewhere, It's acting like a quantum of energy, a particle. So what are you saying there that's not nonsense? I mean, as soon as you start waving electrons, then you really start leaving the building. Alright, so I'll show the DraftScience page. I mean, I don't understand. I mean, you've posted all these comments and you haven't gone to my DraftScience page. I mean, the perpendicular thing's right there. The fact the electron doesn't move straight is right there. This is where the force is created. Well, what don't you understand? I thought I had a better drawing of the proton. I guess that's it. Well, oh yeah, this is it. This is the complete drawing. So here's the proton. Here's the electron. The force emitted by the proton, or contained in the proton, is perpendicularly released by the electron. The force that affects the electron is perpendicularly released by the proton, meaning no buildup of pressure between them. I mean, I'm explaining why there's perpendicular EMF. What's your wave theory explaining perpendicular release of the force? Oh, that's right, there is none. Alright, anyway. Alright, sorry, this wasn't the video I intended. I mean, I just intended to get into this laser physics and just talk more about this idea of, I mean, the key thing is just this idea of, alright, so here's another point to make. So you have, let's say you have a few electrons in a circumstance where they're tied, you know, they're always under tension. See, that's the trick. There's electrons everywhere and they're always under tension. And because there's always a ground and not ground. So as soon as you leave the ground, you already have an electrical potential, whether you like it or not. You know, there's always a potential difference. So in the field, electrons are always under some sort of pressure. They've always been moved to a location and they're staying there because they're under tension. They're getting hit by photons, gravitons, magnetons from all the crap in the field. So they're stuck in a field location natively. And as you increase electrical potential, that tension gets tighter and tighter. Alright, but the point is, so electrons are, even when they're free, they're not really free. They're not just floating around saying, I don't know where to go. No, there's always gravity pulling them somewhere. So it's almost like a gravity argument I can make, right? If I took a little, I don't know, it doesn't matter, something, golf ball, and I stuck it way out into space somewhere, and there was some way I could possibly release it without, you know, giving it my momentum in some way, accidentally. So I could just release it to a zero state. So there was some way to actually give it zero. You know, like I'm not on a bus and I'm already moving and I release it and we know it's still moving the speed of the bus. But if there was some way I could actually release it and it has no momentum. It's not moving in any direction. The truth is, the gravity of the universe, of the star way over there, or the galaxy over there, or this over there, somewhere the equation is going to add up to there's more mass that way than there is that way. There's more mass this way than there is that way. And the thing's going to start moving. Electrons are in the same circumstance. They're not free. They're always finding, seeking the neutral point. Some place to just, hey, I'm right in the middle. Perfect. That's the state. They're not seeking it individually. I'm just saying metaphorically. They don't stop till they find it. And they have a forced direction. The direction is forced. Which way they go to find it. Because in a sense they have to travel through it. In a sense. They have to travel through the neutral to get from one side to the other. It's like they have to climb the fence, and when on top of the fence there's nothing pushing them either way, which is the interesting part. So anyway, so when they're under tension, you can sort of understand that if I send 10 little photon barbells into here, that pressure will just move like through a medium through the electrons. So the 10 come in here, this one shoots 10, this one shoots 10, this one shoots 10, this one shoots 10, and you end up with 10 coming out here. So you can sort of understand that if this electron was at, and so I didn't write down the state, so these are all at one state electrons. So at one state electrons, nothing happens. But let's say one of these electrons is at a 2. Then 10 come in, 10 come in, 11 come in. You see, so, and that is sort of how you can combine photons. So let's say that now instead of a stream, I have one comes in, and let's just say these electrons aren't perfectly lined up, just a little bit off or something, close but not perfect. And say one could, or the light comes in at an angle, so it hits this electron and it turns this one from a 1 to a 2. And then this force comes in this way. You see, so the next photon comes in this way. Well, what's going to happen is if this photon is going to give its energy basically to this photon. And so that's sort of, you can get an idea that that's how you could create a double slit experiment, is you're just really taking photons that were coming in more than one direction and you're making them go in one direction. So you're energizing the electrons in the path, and then when something else comes through, it releases that energy that's been built up in these electrons. And so then they all go the same way, whether it's this direction or that direction, or whatever the direction would be. So it's just taking the ton parts and moving the energy to one alignment. And once the alignment is right, then it fires all of the energy that way. And you can sort of understand that based on the fact that these electrons do move crooked. So as they move out of even line, you know, they get a jagged line in terms of their alignment. Well, when this one's hit, instead of moving this way or this way, it moves this way. So it ends up back in alignment. And so now when this one gets hit, this electron's in the path, and that means you'll get whatever energy level this electron was at plus this one, and those two will add up to a bigger photon, so to speak, coming out. So one photon goes in and energizes the electron. The next photon ends up releasing the electron with it. So it ends up having one photon comes in, a bunch of one photons come in, and maybe all four of them come out in the same ray, in the same direction. And so that certainly could also explain the double slit and single slit pattern. That was what I really wanted to get to. Yeah. So, but anyway, it's draft science. So this is stuff that just went through my head recently, last couple of days. Been thinking about this a little bit. So it's draft. But I'm just saying there's a theoretical way, another theoretical way, where the electrons are not only energized. Well, see, I shouldn't even say energized, because the trick is, see, the electron had the energy when it was here, and what really happened is when the photon hits it, and the electron moves in a new direction, what it actually does is it moves into the direction of higher force. So now it's increased the number of ping pong balls. You can sort of understand that, okay, here it is. Here's probably a better example. Two electrons are this far apart, and they have a ping pong ball bouncing between them. Now if I inject another electron into this path, so now there's one right here, you can sort of understand that now I've doubled the force, right? Oh, let's say you had to have two ping pong balls because you're not going to have any force on this side. But you're doubling the amount of these bounces by putting this impediment in here. So it wasn't so much that this is energized, it's that it went into a circumstance where it increased the amount of force by creating more vibration. Okay. More frequency. Yeah. So anyway, I have to, like I said, I'll work on this, but I got so many things going on here. So, like I said, I'll get to it when I want to get my experiments going. You know, I want to scratch a few mirrors and whatnot. So, anyway, till the next time and such. But really, I'm just so sick of shitty comments. Make an argument. And if you're going to put something in bold, make sure you're right. Make sure you're responding to what I've said, what my argument is. My argument has been consistent. There's been no deception here. I'm talking about the two-slit experiment clearly. And the two-slit experiment, A does not equal the width of the slit. Don't put that in bold, fucker, because that's wrong.